When it comes to fighting, most people love to see a good battle. And it's not hard to see why. There's something intriguing about watching two forces battle for dominance. But what seems to be disappointing is when the one you're rooting for isn't prepared, and it shows in their performance. Think about it. We get extremely upset with others when we feel that they don't prepare for battle, don't we? We say things like, they knew what their opponent was capable of and the areas they were going to attack, and yet they still didn't prepare for it. They just didn't do enough to win. It's easy for us to say what others should do or should have done when they're the ones fighting. But what about us? How many of us are really ready to fight at a moment's notice? How many of us are prepared to defend ourselves or the ones we love when we're involved in a fight? I hope you noticed that I said when we're involved in a fight and not if. Because whether you realize it or not, you're fighting every day against sin and against spiritual forces that wish to destroy you. And some of us are losing the battles daily because we're not spiritually or mentally conditioned for the fight. We know what our weaknesses are, and we know how the enemy attacks, yet we refuse to train. We refuse to do what is needed to withstand the attacks of the enemy and the attacks of the flesh. And even when we do prepare at times, we're preparing to compete, not preparing to win. It's true. Each day, each hour, in a moment's notice, battle after battle is taking place between the spirit and the flesh. Why? Because the flesh is naturally selfish. It desires everything that is pleasing and gratifying, regardless of the circumstances. Its desire is satisfaction. But the Spirit, on the other hand, the Spirit guides us to be a living example of Jesus Christ. He leads us to do the things that are pleasing to God so that God's will be done in our lives. He also guides us away from the things that are detrimental to us and convicts us of sin. But here's the kicker. We have to choose to listen. We have to choose to submit to the Spirit's guidance. In other words, we have to make a choice to win. And guess what? Going to church isn't enough. Attending a Bible study isn't enough. Being a part of a ministry just isn't enough. These things are beneficial to our Christian growth, but ultimately, it boils down to choice. Because regardless of what we want to believe about how well we think we're doing, the choices we make are the true barometer that determines our growth. So which is it? Are you consistently choosing to surrender to God? Because if you're not, you're choosing to surrender to sin. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12 says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." Does it get any more plain than that? We're in a battle against assassins, but refuse to train and refuse to submit to a force that promises consistent victory. Yet, we wonder why we're bleeding. So if we're going to fight regardless, why not fight to win? Blessings.